The war room was filled with desperate voices. Taldris stood at the center of the massive chamber, his forearms crossed in frustration. Around him, representatives from 30 different worlds argued and shouted. The holographic display above them showed the same terrible truth that had haunted them for 3 years. Red markers spread across the galaxy like a disease. The Vryn swarm was winning. "We have lost the Culveris sector," announced General Prex, his voice heavy with defeat. "That makes 12 systems this month alone." Taldris felt the weight of command crushing down on him. As the leader of the Coalition War Council, he had seen too many worlds burn, too many billions of lives lost to the endless hunger of the Vryn. The insect-like creatures consumed everything in their path, turning entire planets into hive worlds within weeks. "We need new strategies," said Commander Velk, her scaled skin shimmering under the lights. "Everything we try fails. They adapt too quickly." "We need more than strategy," Taldris replied quietly. "We need a miracle." An old voice spoke from the shadows of the chamber. "Perhaps the answer lies in the past." Everyone turned. Keeper Vorn emerged from the archive section, his ancient form bent with age. He carried a data crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. The old historian rarely attended war meetings. His presence now caught everyone's attention. "Keeper Vorn," Taldris said respectfully. "What have you found?" "Legends," Vorn replied. "Old stories that most consider myths. But after studying the ancient texts again, I believe they may be more than stories." He activated the crystal. Images filled the air above the table. Strange symbols and star maps that looked impossibly old appeared before them. Then came images of warriors, bipedal creatures that looked both familiar and alien at the same time. 50,000 years ago, there was a race called the Sleepers, Vorn explained. The ancient texts described them as the greatest warriors the galaxy had ever seen. They could turn the tide of any battle. Their technology was beyond anything we have now. Their tactics were perfect. Their soldiers were unstoppable. "Children's tales," scoffed Prex. "Stories to comfort scared younglings." "I thought so too," Vorn admitted. "But look at this." He changed the display. A star map appeared with one system highlighted. Every ancient text gives the same coordinates. The home of the Sleepers, a system called Sol. Taldris studied the map. The Sol system was in a forgotten part of the galaxy. No one had explored that region for thousands of years. It was considered empty space, worthless and far from any trade routes. "Even if they existed," Velk said slowly, "they vanished 50,000 years ago. Why would they help us now?" "Because," Vorn replied, "the legends say they would return when the galaxy needed them most." The room fell silent. Taldris knew how desperate they were if they were seriously considering chasing ancient myths. But what choice did they have? The Vryn would consume the entire galaxy within 5 years at their current rate. "Send a scout ship," Taldris ordered. "Find this Sol system. If there is even a chance the legends are true, we must take it." 3 weeks later, the scout ship returned. The captain, a young officer named Rylax, stood before the council with wide eyes. His voice trembled as he made his report. "The system exists," he said, "and it is inhabited." The council chamber erupted in excited whispers. Taldris leaned forward. "Tell us everything." "There are 9 planets," Rylax continued. "The 3rd planet from the star is teeming with life. Billions of beings live there. They call themselves humans. They call their world Earth. Do they have the technology?" Taldris asked urgently. "Are they advanced?" Rylax hesitated. "They have basic space travel. They have satellites and stations around their planet, but their technology seems primitive compared to ours. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are simple." Disappointment settled over the room like a heavy blanket. These could not be the legendary Sleepers. They were just another race struggling with basic technology. "However," Rylax added, "there was something strange. When we approached their planet, they detected us immediately. They sent out a message in perfect galactic standard. They knew our language. They knew about the Coalition. They invited us to land and meet with their leaders. How could they know our language if they have never left their system?" Felk asked. "I do not know," Rylax admitted. "But when I met with their representatives, they said they had been waiting. Those were their exact words. We have been waiting." The council decided to send an official delegation to Earth. Taldris himself would lead it. They needed to know if these humans were truly the descendants of the legendary Sleepers, or just another weak race that would soon fall to the Vryn. The diplomatic ship arrived at Earth 2 weeks later. Taldris stood at the viewing port and stared at the blue and green planet below. It looked peaceful, beautiful, nothing like a world that had spawned legendary warriors. They landed at a place the humans called Geneva. The human leaders were waiting for them in a large building. Taldris was surprised to see how similar humans looked to the ancient images. 2 arms, 2 legs, smooth skin in various shades. They were smaller than most coalition species and they looked fragile. 2 humans stepped forward to greet them. A man introduced himself as Commander Day, and a woman as Ambassador High. Both wore simple blue uniforms. "Welcome to Earth," High said, her voice calm and confident. "We have much to discuss." Over the next 3 days, Taldris explained the war. He showed them images of the Vryn. He described the destruction, the billions dead, the worlds consumed. He watched their faces carefully, looking for any sign of the legendary warriors. The humans listened quietly. They asked intelligent questions. They studied the tactical data with sharp eyes. But they looked so ordinary, so unremarkable. "We need your help," Taldris finally said. "The ancient texts speak of the Sleepers, the greatest warriors in galactic history. The coordinates in those texts led us here. Are you the descendants of that race?" Commander Day and Ambassador High exchanged a long look. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication. "We know the stories you speak of," High said carefully. "But you must understand, much has changed in 50,000 years. We are not the same as we were." "Then you cannot help us," Prex said with disgust. "We have wasted our time on primitives playing at being legends." Day's eyes hardened. "We did not say we cannot help. We said we have changed. Give us time to discuss this among our people. We do not enter wars lightly." "We do not have time," Taldris said urgently. "Every day, more worlds die." "Then we will give you our answer in 3 days," Day replied firmly. The coalition delegation left the meeting frustrated and disappointed. These humans were nothing like the legends. They had no great technology. They commanded no vast fleets. They were just another small race hiding in their corner of the galaxy. But Keeper Vorn stood at the window of their ship, looking down at Earth. Something troubled him. The humans had not seemed surprised by the war. They had not seemed afraid. They had seemed prepared, as if they had been expecting this call for a very long time. "The legends say the Sleepers withdrew from the galaxy," Vorn said quietly to Taldris. "They do not say they vanished. They do not say they died. They say they withdrew. To sleep. To wait." "These humans are not warriors," Taldris replied. "Look at them. They are weak." "Perhaps," Vorn said slowly, "or perhaps they have simply learned to sleep very quietly." The answer came on the 3rd day. Commander Day and Ambassador High met with the coalition delegation in the same room where they had first talked. Day looked tired, as if he had not slept since their last meeting. "Earth has made its decision," High announced. "We will send observers to the front lines. We need to see this enemy for ourselves before we commit our forces." High Marshal Thex, who had arrived from the front lines just that morning, laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. The massive warrior had fought the Vryn for 2 years straight. He had lost 3 of his 6 limbs in battle. He had no patience for what he saw as primitive beings pretending to be soldiers. "Observers?" Thex rumbled. "You wish to watch real warriors fight while you stand safely behind? Typical of soft races who have never seen war." "We have seen war," Day said quietly. His voice was calm, but something in his eyes made Thex stop laughing. "We simply wish to understand this particular enemy before we act." "Fine," Thex spat. "Send your observers. Let them see what real combat looks like. Perhaps it will teach them to respect their betters." 2 weeks later, Captain Jin stood on the bridge of the UNS Indomitable and watched the coalition fleet prepare for battle. The human ship was small compared to the alien vessels around it. The coalition commanders had placed it far in the back, away from the fighting. They clearly thought the humans would be useless in combat. "They treat us like children," Lieutenant Na said from the tactical station. Her voice was tight with frustration. "Let them," Jin replied. "We are here to learn." But Jin was learning things that troubled him. He watched how the coalition ships moved. They were slow. Their formations were predictable. Their weapons, while powerful, took too long to charge and aim. Everything about their tactics was defensive. They fought like prey, not predators. "Captain," called out Bo from the engineering station, "I have been analyzing their shield systems. They are terribly inefficient. They waste almost 40% of their power output. Keep scanning, Jin ordered. Learn everything you can. The Vryn attacked at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. They came in a swarm, thousands of bioships that looked like massive insects made of metal and flesh. They screamed through space with terrible speed, firing weapons that tore through shields like paper. Jin watched in horror as the Coalition fleet tried to respond. The aliens fought bravely, but they were simply not fast enough. Ship after ship fell to the Vryn assault. Escape pods launched into space as vessels exploded. They are retreating, Na reported. The entire Coalition line is breaking. Captain, Bo shouted suddenly. One of those escape pod clusters is drifting toward a Vryn cruiser pack. They will be destroyed in 90 seconds. Jin looked at the tactical display. A civilian transport had been hit. Hundreds of escape pods floated in space filled with refugees. The Vryn were moving to consume them. The Coalition ships were too far away to help. Already fleeing the battlefield. Open a channel to Marshal Thex, Jin ordered. Jin, you should not, Na warned. Open it. Thex's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, his bridge was in chaos. What do you want, human? We are busy dying. Those escape pods need cover. Request permission to engage the Vryn cruisers. Thex stared at him for a moment, then laughed that same unpleasant laugh. You want to fight? In that tiny ship? You would not last 10 seconds. Stay back and watch, observer. Learn how real warriors die with honor. Marshal, those people are already dead. As are we all if we do not retreat. This battle is lost. Thex cut the connection. Jin stared at the tactical display. The escape pods had 70 seconds left. The Vryn cruisers were closing in. He thought about Earth, about the orders he had been given. Watch, learn. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Then he thought about the children in those escape pods, the families, the soldiers who had fought bravely against impossible odds. Battle stations, Jin said quietly. Captain. Na looked at him in surprise. You heard me. Charge weapons. Set course for those Vryn cruisers. Maximum combat speed. The bridge crew hesitated for only a moment. Then they moved with sudden sharp efficiency. The Indomitable sprang to life. Her engines, which had been idling at low power, suddenly roared. The small human ship shot forward, moving faster than any Coalition vessel. Target the lead cruisers, Jin ordered. Fire as soon as we are in range. They are hailing us, Bo reported. Multiple Coalition ships. They are telling us to retreat. Ignore them. Now give me firing solutions on all 17 cruisers in that pack. All 17? Na looked up from her console. Captain, we only have 8 main guns. Did I stutter, Lieutenant? Na's fingers danced across her controls. A smile slowly spread across her face. Sir, I have solutions, but we will need to move very fast. Then we move fast. The Indomitable entered weapon range. The Vryn cruisers detected the small human ship and turned to face it. They probably thought it was prey. An easy kill before they took the escape pods. They learned differently in the next 8 minutes. The Indomitable's first volley struck 3 cruisers simultaneously. The human weapons did not fire energy beams like Coalition guns. They fired condensed matter at near light speed. The projectiles punched through Vryn armor like it was not there. 3 cruisers exploded before they could even return fire. Jin's ship spun and rolled, moving in ways that seemed impossible for something its size. Coalition ships moved like ocean vessels, slow and steady. The Indomitable moved like a fighter jet, fast and deadly. 4 more Vryn cruisers died in the next 2 minutes. The remaining ships tried to surround the human vessel, but Jin was always somewhere else. The Indomitable danced through their firing patterns, never staying still, always shooting, always killing. Na's tactical predictions were perfect. She anticipated every Vryn movement before they made it. Her firing solutions hit targets that should have been impossible to hit. The Vryn commanders must have been confused. How could one small ship be destroying their entire pack? The last Vryn cruiser tried to run. Jin did not let it. The Indomitable chased it down and destroyed it with a single shot. Silence filled the communication channels. Every Coalition ship had stopped fleeing. They floated in space, watching in stunned disbelief. One human ship had just destroyed 17 Vryn cruisers in 8 minutes. The Vryn had not managed to land a single hit on the Indomitable. Marshal Thex's face appeared on Jin's screen again. The alien warrior looked like he had seen a ghost. What? What are you? I am an observer, Jin replied calmly. Observing that your tactics need work. Also observing that you left civilians to die. Humans do not do that, your weapons. Your speed, your pilot skills. Dex's voice was barely a whisper. Nothing in the Coalition moves like that. Fights like that? No, Jin agreed. Nothing in the Coalition does. The legends, Thex breathed. By the ancient stars. The legends are true, Jin did not respond. He ordered his crew to help recover the escape pods while the Coalition fleet regrouped. As they worked, he could hear the chatter on the alien communication channels. The word spread like wildfire through the Coalition fleet. The humans were not descendants of the sleepers. They were not pale echoes of a lost age. They were the sleepers. The legends had not been exaggerated. The humans had simply been sleeping, waiting in their corner of the galaxy. And now they were awake. On the Indomitable's bridge, Lieutenant Na studied the battle data. Captain, I have analyzed the Vryn attack patterns. I can predict their next 3 major offensives with 95% accuracy. Send that data to Coalition Command, Jin ordered. And send a message to Earth. Tell them we have seen enough. It is time to wake up completely. That night in the Coalition war room, Keeper Vorn stood before a holographic display showing the battle. He watched the recording again and again. The way the human ship moved. The precision of its weapons. The tactical brilliance of its crew. Taldris, he said quietly. Do you know why the legends called them sleepers? Why? Taldris asked. Because when they slept, the galaxy was peaceful. But when they woke, Vorn pointed at the display. When they woke, they reminded everyone why peace was possible in the first place. High Marshal Thex sent a message to all Coalition forces that night. It was simple and direct. The humans are not our guests. They are not our observers. They are the reason the Vryn should be afraid. The sleepers have returned. The flash of light that filled the Corvin Nebula was visible from 3 systems away. It was not the light of stars or the glow of nebula gases. It was the light of 500 human warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel all at once. Fleet Admiral Young stood on the bridge of the UNS Revelation and looked out at his fleet. Each ship was larger than anything the Coalition had built. Each one carried enough firepower to level a moon. Behind him, his tactical officers worked in perfect silence, their movements smooth and practiced. Admiral, his communications officer reported. We are receiving hails from the Coalition fleet. They sound confused. Young allowed himself a small smile. Put them through. Taldris appeared on the main screen. The alien leader looked like he had not slept in days. When he saw the human fleet hanging in space, his eyes went wide. Admiral Young, Taldris said slowly. Where did all these ships come from? Earth, Young replied simply. We have decided to enter the war formally. But Captain Jin said you needed time to prepare. That was only 3 weeks ago. We were already prepared, Young explained. We have been prepared for 50,000 years. We just needed to see if the fight was worth waking up for. 50,000. Taldris stopped. Understanding dawned on his face. You are them. You are actually them. The sleepers. We prefer to call ourselves humans, Young said. But yes, we are what your legends speak of. Behind Taldris, Young could see the Coalition war room. Every alien leader present was staring at the display showing the human fleet. Their faces showed the same expression. All mixed with hope, mixed with a touch of fear. Why? Taldris asked. Why did you leave? 50,000 years ago, why did you vanish? Young's expression grew sad. We were fighting each other. A war between our own people that nearly destroyed us. We had become so good at war that we almost wiped ourselves out. So we made a choice. We went home. We sealed ourselves away. We swore we would never fight again unless the galaxy truly needed us. And now? Taldris asked quietly. Now the galaxy needs us, Young replied. So we fight. Dr. Sun appeared beside Young on the screen. The scientist looked excited despite the serious situation. We have been studying the data Captain Jin sent us. The Vryn are fascinating from a biological standpoint, also quite deadly. We have developed several new weapons specifically designed to counter their abilities. New weapons? Taldris looked confused. In 3 weeks? We have been studying war for 50,000 years, Sun explained. We did not stop learning just because we stopped fighting. We analyzed every battle, every tactic, every weapon. We built simulations. We tested theories. When we finally fight, we are very good at it. Show me, Taldris said. The Battle of Corvin Nebula began 2 hours later. The Vryn had massed a huge fleet in the nebula, using its gases to hide their numbers. Coalition intelligence estimated 3,000 Vryn ships. It was the largest Vryn force ever assembled. General Tay stood in the dropship with 500 soldiers behind him. They were the first human ground troops to enter combat in 50,000 years. Each soldier wore advanced armor that made them look like metal warriors. Their weapons hummed with barely contained energy. "Listen up," Tay said over the comm system. "The Coalition thinks we are legends. They think we cannot lose. But legends die just as easily as anyone else if they are stupid. So do not be stupid. Follow your training. Watch your teams. And remember why we are here." "Sir, why are we here?" asked a young soldier. Tay smiled behind his helmet. "Because there are people who need defending. Because there is evil that needs stopping. Because we are humans, and humans do not let others suffer when we can help. That is why we are here." The dropships launched from the fleet. Their target was a Vryn hive world that had been a Coalition colony just months ago. Intelligence said there were still survivors hiding on the surface. Tay's mission was to get them out. In space above, the main battle began. The Vryn ships poured out of the nebula like angry insects. They came in numbers that should have been overwhelming. The Coalition fleet, which had been reinforced with their best remaining ships, prepared to meet them. Then Admiral Young gave his orders, and the Vryn learned what real war looked like. The human ships moved in formations that were both beautiful and terrifying. They flowed like water, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship would be. Their weapons fired with perfect timing, creating patterns of destruction that left no room for the Vryn to escape. In the first 10 minutes, 200 Vryn ships were destroyed. The Vryn had not managed to destroy a single human vessel. The Vryn adapted. They always adapted. They changed their tactics, trying new approaches. But for every change they made, the humans had already planned a counter. It was as if the humans could read their minds. Lieutenant Na, now promoted and serving on the Revelation, worked at her tactical station with fierce concentration. "Admiral, the Vryn are attempting to flank us from coordinate 773. "How long until they arrive?" Young asked. 14 minutes. "Then we have time. Send Squadron 5 to intercept. Have them use pattern Delta." The battle raged for 3 hours. The Coalition fleet, fighting alongside the humans, began to learn. They watched how the humans moved, how they communicated, how they thought 3 steps ahead of the enemy. It was like watching masters teach students. On the ground, General Tay and his troops had landed on the hive world. The planet's surface was covered in Vryn structures, organic buildings that pulsed with disgusting life. Somewhere in this nightmare, Coalition survivors were hiding. "Contact," one of Tay's soldiers reported. "Multiple Vryn warriors ahead." "How many?" Tay asked. "Scanning shows at least 200. "Only 200? Tay checked his weapon. "We should be fine. Squad leaders, formation 3. Let us show these bugs what humans can do." The Vryn warriors were terrifying creatures. Each one stood 3 meters tall with razor-sharp claws and armor that could turn aside Coalition weapons. They had never lost a ground battle, ever. They lost this one in 12 minutes. The human soldiers moved like ghosts through the hive structures. Their armor systems made them nearly invisible. Their weapons cut through Vryn armor like it was made of soft clay. But most impressive was how they worked together. Every soldier knew where every other soldier was. They never got in each other's way. They covered each other perfectly. You, who led the special operations team, found the survivors in an underground bunker. There were 43 of them, including children. They looked starved and terrified. "We are humans," Yu said gently, removing her helmet so they could see her face. "We are here to take you home." An old Coalition soldier looked at her with tears in his eyes. "The legends are true," he whispered. "The sleepers came back. We came back," Yu confirmed. "And we are not leaving until this is over." Back in space, the battle was ending. Of the 3,000 Vryn ships, fewer than 200 remained. They were fleeing in all directions, their formation broken, their will shattered. The human fleet had lost exactly 0 ships. Several had taken damage, but none had been destroyed. Admiral Young stood and watched the Vryn retreat. Behind him, Dr. Sun was already analyzing the battle data, looking for ways to improve for next time. "Admiral," Taldris called from the Coalition flagship, "what you did here today, I have never seen anything like it." "This was just one battle," Young replied. "The Vryn Queen is still out there. She still commands millions of ships across the galaxy. We have barely begun, but now we have hope," Taldris said. "For the first time in 3 years, we have real hope. Hope is good, Young agreed. But hope is not enough. We need to take the fight to the Vryn. We need to show them that their time of easy conquest is over. That night, in Coalition space stations and command centers across the galaxy, military leaders gathered around displays showing footage from the battle. They watched the recordings again and again, trying to understand what they had seen. The humans were not just good at war. They were artists of war. Every movement had purpose. Every shot had meaning. They fought with a precision and skill that seemed impossible. Commander Bo, still aboard the Indomitable, sent a message back to Earth. It was simple and direct. The galaxy remembers the legends, but the legends only told half the story. The truth is so much better. On a dozen worlds, young Coalition soldiers went to sleep that night with new dreams. Dreams of fighting alongside the legendary sleepers. Dreams of learning from the masters of war. Dreams of winning. The Vryn Queen, in her massive hive ship at the center of her empire, received the reports from the battle. For the first time in her long life, she felt something she had never felt before. Fear. The sleepers had returned, and they were everything the legends had promised and more. Commander Wu stood before a classroom filled with Coalition officers and felt like a teacher facing eager students. Except these students were experienced warriors from a dozen different species, all of them older than him, all of them with years of combat experience. War is not about being brave, Wu began. War is about being smart. The Vryn are strong. They are numerous, but they follow patterns. Today we learn to break those patterns. An officer from the Kelthani Empire raised his hand. His name was Commander Vrix, and he had fought the Vryn for 2 years. Humans fight aggressively. You attack when we would defend. You advance when we would retreat. How do you decide when to be aggressive? We are always aggressive, Wu replied. Defense is just a form of attack we have not started yet. That is the first lesson. The Vryn are predators. Predators respect strength. When you act like prey, they treat you like prey. But we have seen the recordings, said another officer. Your ship movements, your tactics, they are too fast. Our ships cannot move that way. Our reaction times are slower. Then use different tactics, Wu explained. He pulled up a holographic display. Look at this. In the last battle, the Coalition ship Vengeance used a human formation. Your captain, Commander Helix, adapted our tactics to fit his ship's abilities. He destroyed 6 Vryn cruisers. 6. Before learning from us what was his best. 2, Vrick said quietly. His best was 2, exactly. You do not need to be human to use human tactics. You need to think like we think. Aggressive, always moving forward. Always looking for weakness. The training sessions went on for weeks. Human officers spread throughout the Coalition fleet, teaching, demonstrating, and training. Some alien commanders learned quickly. Others struggled with the aggressive mindset. But all of them improved. Meanwhile, Kyung sat in a dark room surrounded by displays showing intelligence data. She was thin and quiet, the kind of person who would be easy to overlook. But her mind was one of the sharpest in human space. She had been studying the Vryn for months now, looking for their weakness. I found something, she announced to Admiral Young during their daily briefing. Show me, Young said. Kyung pulled up a star map. Red markers showed Vryn territory, but she had added blue lines connecting certain systems. The Vryn ships do not operate independently. They are controlled by nodes, command nodes that coordinate their actions. I have been tracking ship movements and I think I found the pattern. Where? Young leaned forward. Here. Kyung pointed to a system deep in Vryn space. The Karatha system. I believe the Vryn Queen herself is there. Every major Vryn movement originates from this location. If we could strike there, we could disrupt their entire command structure. Young studied the map. The Karatha system was surrounded by Vryn forces. Getting there would require punching through dozens of defended systems. It would be the most dangerous mission of the war. How sure are you? Young asked. 93%, Kyung replied. Young smiled. Then we plan an attack. But first, we need to clear a path. Over the next 6 weeks, the combined human and Coalition fleet won 12 major battles. The tide of war shifted dramatically. Systems that had been lost were reclaimed. Worlds that had been under Vryn occupation were freed. The Vryn were being pushed back for the first time since the war began. Juan sat in the cockpit of his fighter and felt the familiar rush of pre-battle nerves. He was the best pilot in the human fleet, maybe the best pilot in the galaxy, but that did not mean he was not scared. Juan, his wing leader called over the comm. You ready? Always ready, Juan replied, though his hands trembled slightly. The mission was insane. Intelligence needed detailed scans of the Vryn defenses around Karatha. That meant flying through the heaviest Vryn concentration in the galaxy, 20 fighters against thousands of Vryn ships. Launch in 30 seconds, the flight controller announced. Juan took a deep breath. He thought about why he was fighting. He thought about the coalition civilians they had saved. He thought about the future where his children might live in peace. Launch. The fighters shot out of the carrier bay and into space. Immediately, Vryn forces detected them and gave chase. Juan's fighter dodged and weaved through enemy fire. His reflexes were inhuman, his instincts perfect. Behind him, his squadron followed in tight formation. They flew through the Vryn defensive network in a pattern that should have been impossible. Between capital ships, through missile barrages, under the firing arcs of massive weapons platforms. Juan led them all, his fighter dancing through space like it was alive. Got the scans, one pilot reported. Heading back. Negative, Juan said. Look at that station at coordinates 419. That is a command node. We take it out now. Juan, that is not the mission, his wing leader protested. The mission is to help win this war, Juan replied. That node controls this entire sector. We kill it, we blind them. He did not wait for approval. His fighter shot forward, weapons charged. The rest of his squadron followed. They always followed Juan, even into madness. The attack on the command node took 3 minutes. 3 minutes of the most intense combat any of them had ever experienced. The station was heavily defended, but Juan was unstoppable. His weapons found every weak point. His flying made the impossible look easy. When the station exploded, the Vryn ships in the sector suddenly lost coordination. They flew in confused patterns, unable to communicate properly. The path to Karatha had just become a little bit clearer. Back on the fleet, Sung prepared his Marines for the ground assault. When the fleet reached Karatha, they would need to land troops to secure key locations. Sung's Marines would be the first ones down. This is it, Sung told his troops. The big one. The Vryn Queen is down there. We end this war on that planet. Do you think we can win? Asked a young Marine. Sung smiled. Kid, we are humans. We always win. The question is not if we win. The question is how many stories we will have to tell when it is over. The Marines laughed, their nervousness easing. That was Sung's gift. He could make soldiers laugh before battle. He could make them believe in themselves. The fleet arrived at Karatha 3 days later. The system was exactly as Kyung had predicted. Thousands of Vryn ships, massive defensive stations, and at the center a planet covered in hive structures. There, Kyung pointed at a massive structure on the planet's surface. That is her. The Queen is in that structure. I am certain. Admiral Young studied the tactical display. The Vryn were prepared for them. This would be the hardest battle of the war, but they had come too far to turn back. All ships, Young announced over the fleet-wide channel. This is it. This is the moment we have been building toward. The Vryn Queen is on that planet. We will reach her. We will end her. And we will end this war. For the galaxy. For peace. For humanity. The response was deafening. Human ships and coalition vessels both. All of them shouting their readiness. They had trained together. Fought together. Bled together. They were no longer separate fleets. They were one force united in purpose. Begin the assault, Young ordered. The Battle of Karatha began with fire and fury. The Vryn threw everything they had at the combined fleet. The sky lit up with weapons fire. Ships exploded on both sides. The fighting was brutal and desperate, but the humans and their coalition allies pushed forward. Every tactic they had learned, every strategy they had practiced, they used now. Wu's training paid off as coalition ships executed perfect formations. Kyung's intelligence guided them to weak points in the Vryn defenses. Juan and his fighter squadrons cleared paths through enemy formations. And slowly, impossibly, they began to win. Ground teams. You are clear to launch, Young announced. Sung and his Marines, along with General Tay's main force, descended toward the planet. The real war was about to begin on the surface of Karatha, the war that would decide the fate of the galaxy. In her throne room, deep beneath the hive structures, the Vryn Queen felt her children dying above. She had ruled for 1,000 years. She had conquered 100 worlds. But now, for the first time, she faced an enemy she could not overcome. The sleepers had returned. And they had come for her. The ground shook as Sung's Marines hit the surface of Karatha. The planet was a nightmare. Everything was covered in the organic material the Vryn used for construction. The air was thick and smelled of decay, but Sung had seen worse in training simulations. "Move out," he ordered. "Stay in formation. Watch your sectors." The Marines advanced through the hive structures. Vryn warriors poured out to meet them, but the humans were ready. Every Marine knew their job. Every team worked in perfect coordination. The Vryn were fierce, but the humans were fiercer. Above them, General Tay led the main assault force toward the Queen's structure. It was massive, a tower of biomaterial that stretched kilometers into the sky. Vryn forces defended it desperately, but Tay's troops pushed through. "You," Tay called to the Special Operations leader. "Take your team and find us a way in. That structure will have defenses we cannot see." Yu and her team moved like shadows. They had trained for exactly this kind of mission. While the main force fought the Vryn army, Yu's team slipped through gaps in the defense. They used every trick they knew, every skill they had mastered. "Found it," Yu reported 20 minutes later. "There is a ventilation system on the west side. Big enough for troops. Defended, but we can clear it." "Do it," Tay ordered. Yu's team went to work. They moved through the ventilation system, taking out Vryn defenders silently and efficiently. Behind them, the main force followed. They were getting inside the Queen's fortress. In space above, the battle raged on. Admiral Young watched the tactical displays with calm focus. The Vryn were fighting with everything they had, but it was not enough. The combined fleet was slowly destroying the Vryn forces. "Admiral," Dr. Sun called from the science station, "I am detecting massive energy readings from the planet's surface. The Queen is charging some kind of weapon." "What kind of weapon?" Young demanded. "Unknown. But if I am reading this correctly, it has enough power to destroy a planet. Maybe several planets." Young felt ice in his veins. "How long until it fires?" 20 minutes. Maybe less." Young grabbed his comm. "All forces, the Queen has a planet-killer weapon. We need to take her down now. Ground teams, double time. Get to that Queen before she destroys everything." On the surface, General Tay heard the message. 20 minutes. They had to fight through kilometers of Vryn defenders in 20 minutes. It was impossible. "Then we do the impossible," Tay said to his troops. "Full assault. Every team. We break through or we die trying." The human forces surged forward. They fought with a fury that shocked even the Vryn. Every soldier knew what was at stake. Every Marine understood that failure meant death for billions. Sung's team breached the inner defenses. He could see the Queen's chamber now, a massive organic room at the heart of the structure. The Queen herself was there, enormous and terrible, surrounded by her royal guard. "All units converge on my position," Sung ordered. "We end this now." But the Vryn had one final surprise. The Queen activated her weapon early. The entire structure began to shake. Energy readings spiked to impossible levels. "She is firing it at the fleet," Dr. Sun reported from orbit. "The weapon will destroy our ships in 90 seconds. Bo, working frantically at his engineering station, ran calculations. "Admiral, I have an idea, but it is risky." "Tell me," Young demanded. "We can create a singularity, a tiny black hole. It will consume the weapon's energy before it reaches us, but we need to detonate it very close to the planet. The gravity waves could destroy everything on the surface." Young looked at the tactical display. His ground forces were still fighting down there. Thousands of soldiers, including some of his best friends. But if the weapon hit the fleet, the entire invasion would fail. The war would be lost. "Do it," Young ordered. "Admiral, our troops—" Bo started. "I know. Do it anyway." "That is an order." Bo's hands shook as he prepared the weapon. In all his years as an engineer, he had never had to make a choice like this. But he was a soldier. He followed orders. "Firing in 30 seconds, Bo announced. On the surface, General Tay heard the alert. He understood immediately what was happening. The fleet was sacrificing them to save everyone else. "All troops," Tay said calmly. "We have 30 seconds. If we cannot kill the Queen in 30 seconds, someone else will. But I would rather we do it." "What do you say?" The response came as a roar from thousands of soldiers. They charged the Queen's chamber with everything they had. Sung reached the Queen first. The massive creature towered over him, her guards trying to protect her. Sung did not care about guards. He armed every weapon he had and fired at the Queen. Yu and her team came from another direction. Tay's main force breached from above. For 10 seconds, every human soldier in that chamber fired at the Queen with everything they had. The Vryn Queen, who had lived for 1,000 years, who had conquered worlds and destroyed civilizations, fell under the assault. Her massive form collapsed. Her weapon, not yet fully charged, exploded in a shower of energy. "Target destroyed," Tay reported, his voice strained. "The Queen is dead. The weapon is destroyed. We did it." In orbit, Bo hesitated with his finger over the firing button. "Admiral, they killed her." "They stopped the weapon." Young sagged in his chair. Relief flooded through him. "Stand down. Get our troops out of there." The battle was over. With the Queen dead, the Vryn ships lost all coordination. They fled in every direction, their hive mind shattered. The coalition forces, both human and alien, let them go. There had been enough death. On the surface, Sung sat down heavily and removed his helmet. Around him, his Marines were doing the same. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. "That was close," one Marine said. "That is what we do," Sung replied. "We do the impossible. Then we do it again tomorrow." The war did not end immediately. There were still Vryn forces scattered across the galaxy. But without the Queen, they were just animals. Dangerous animals, but not the unstoppable force they had been. The Coalition and human forces spent the next 3 months hunting down the remaining Vryn and freeing the last occupied worlds. Finally, on a warm day on Earth, Ambassador High stood before the Galactic Council in a newly built chamber. The council had been reformed. New rules, new members, new hopes for the future. "We stand at the beginning of a new age," High announced. "The war is over. The Vryn are scattered. The galaxy is free, but we must decide what kind of galaxy we want to build." Taldris, now the head of the reformed council, nodded. "What does humanity propose?" "Huh." The young diplomat, who had been working with the council for months, stepped forward. "We propose partnership. Not dominance. Not conquest. Partnership. We will help defend the galaxy. We will share our technology. We will teach what we know. But we will not rule." "That is not why we returned." "Then why did you return?" asked one of the council members. Ha smiled. "Because you needed us. That is what humans do. We help when help is needed. We fight when fighting is required. We build when building is possible. And then when the work is done, we go home. Until we are needed again." The council voted unanimously to accept the human proposal. A new age of cooperation began. Human officers continued to train coalition forces. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed worlds. Human diplomats worked to prevent future conflicts. Admiral Young retired 6 months after the war ended. He stood on Earth and looked up at the stars with Commander Day beside him. "Do you think they will need us again?" Day asked. "Probably," Young replied. "There will always be threats. Always be wars. But that is okay. Now they know we are here. Now they know that when they need help, humanity will answer." "We were sleeping for 50,000 years, Day said. How long will we stay awake this time?" Young smiled. "As long as we are needed. That is the promise we made. That is the promise we will keep." Across the galaxy, the legends were being rewritten. The old stories about the sleepers were updated with new truths. They told of Captain Jin and his impossible rescue. They told of Admiral Young and his unstoppable fleet. They told of General Tay and his brave assault. They told of Juan's legendary flight through the Vryn defenses. But most of all, they told of the day humanity proved that sometimes the legends are real. Sometimes the impossible becomes possible. Sometimes hope is justified. Children on 100 worlds went to sleep hearing stories about the humans, about the warriors who came when they were needed most, about the race that could have conquered the galaxy but chose instead to save it. And on Earth, in military academies and training centers, new soldiers learned the same lessons their ancestors had learned 50,000 years ago. War is terrible, peace is precious, and when good people need defending, humanity will always answer the call. The sleepers had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. Far away in a quiet corner of space, the last Vryn queens hibernated, waiting for their chance to rebuild. But they would wait a long time. Because now the galaxy had guardians. Now the galaxy had heroes. Now the galaxy had humans. And humans, as the legend said, never let evil go unanswered. They had slept for 50,000 years, but they would never sleep that deeply again. They would always be watching, always be ready, always be there when the call came, because that was what humans did. That was what they had always done. That was what they would always do. The legends had returned, and they were not going anywhere.